Hello, this is Krystal, and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be reading from the beginning of T.J. Alexander's Chef's Kiss. Chapter 1. 8 unbaked loaves of sourdough sat on the test kitchen counter, and Simone was working on the ninth. She had come into work before the sun was up just for this. The culmination of many weeks spent perfecting her no-knead recipe. Each batch of dough had a slightly different ratio of bread flour to whole wheat, or salt to water. The doughs had risen overnight, and now they were nearly ready for the decisive bake. Simone could feel her excitement building, and in the quiet of the test kitchen, which was empty at this early hour, she allowed herself a pleased hum. She gave the ninth and final batch of sourdough its third fold and turn, then placed it gently in a parchment-lined bowl, where it joined the lineup. She frowned, giving the bowl a slight nudge. There. Now all 9 bowls were perfectly aligned in a neat row of stainless steel to match the rest of the sterile industrial kitchen. She jotted down a quick note to herself so she could keep them all straight. They were arranged from most bread flour to least, starting on her left, and tucked the note in her apron pocket. Soon she would find out which recipe was the best of the lot. They just needed one last sharp rise before they went into the oven. A glance out the window told her the sun was rising too. Simone took a moment to sip her coffee and watch the peaceful scene unfold outside. From the top floor of the West Village office building, she could see the tiny triangular park across the street, and the burbling fountain in its center lined with sleepy pigeons. She took another drink of coffee. It was good, dark and strong. No one else on staff had the patience and the know-how to coax the test kitchen's overly complicated espresso machine into producing it. Sometimes, she mused, hard work did pay off. Though she was young, 28 years old, Simone Larkspur had been aggressive in her career as a pastry chef, working long hours in restaurants of incrementally better quality and doggedly writing freelance articles for food and wine publications, until she attained her dream job, recipe developer and writer for The Discerning Chef. Most people had never heard of The Discerning Chef. It was a hybrid publishing company that put out a series of cookbooks and an eponymous magazine since 1952. As their logo proudly proclaimed, their material was aimed, supposedly, at chefs, whether professionally or amateur. The discerning chef could never seem to decide. Simone had been working there for nearly 3 years, and she took such pride in her job that she couldn't imagine doing anything else. Simone was considering whether she had time to cook herself some breakfast when she heard the test kitchen's swinging door creak open. She turned, wondering who else would be there so early, and found it was Delilah, the assistant to the editor-in-chief. "She wants to see you," Delilah said in a tone that managed to be both firm and sympathetic. Her crisp shift dress and box braids were as precise as her gesture in the direction of the executive office. "You can go straight in." "Me? But—" Simone gazed at her row of sourdough loaves. "They needed to be scored and baked in about 15 minutes. Can I just—" "She's waiting," Delilah said, effectively destroying Simone's hopes of finishing up her task before facing her boss's boss. Delilah must have noticed the despair on Simone's face, because she added, "Everyone in editorial is taking a turn. You just happen to be the first one here this morning, and, well, every morning. No need to worry." In Simone's experience, when someone said you shouldn't worry, you should very much worry. And in fact, should clear your schedule to do nothing but. Still, if the big boss called, she couldn't dither. She squared her shoulders, stood at her full height, which honestly was not very tall, and marched to the executive office. She tapped at the cloudy glass door and cracked it open, popping her head in to find the woman herself at her desk. Pim Gladly, editor-in-chief of The Discerning Chef for over 35 years, a giant in the culinary world. She was an occasional judge on one of those cooking shows that tortures its poor contestants with impossible, nightmarish tasks. She'd made several hardened chefs cry on camera. She was actually a popular meme, used primarily for reactions that required unimpressed judgment, though she refused to learn what a meme was. Her eyes found Simone from behind an overly large pair of eyeglasses framed in red ovals. Ah, Simone. Her gaze flicked down to her desk, where she seemed to consult a slip of paper. Have a seat. She waved her hand toward one of the leather chairs opposite. And if you would like to know what this meeting is, you can check this book out. It's available on Libby. Again, that's Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. Please join me here next week as I read from the beginning of Sadika Johnson's The House of Eve. Thank you and have a great week.